There we go. I'm terrible at this. Okay. We in the North believe that to advance in technology is the future, because we have infertile soil, a cold climate, and very few small farms, so we rely on large factories for most of our money.
Well, us in the South depend on farms for the money and could care less about the advancement in technology.
Why are we so bad at this?
I don't know.
Okay.
Hello, Potter High School. I'm Emery Burgess, and we will be talking about the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850.
And talking to you guys about how slavery is inhumane.
Hi, I'm Hayden Hudson. I'm studying middle school history at the university.
I think that all humans should be treated equally no matter the race or gender.
Very interesting.
That the South is suffering financially because they don't have as many factories coming from the...
That people who hid or helped runaway slaves could be fined $1,000 and 6 months of jail time.
Yes, in a lot of ways, the Fugitive Slave Act divided the country instead of united it, and the South was hurt, not helped. I'm Hayden Hudson.
And I'm Ryan Burton.
We'll see you next time on
CHS Network.
Our topic is whether California is going to go to the North or South.
The North and South are struggling on a compromise with the expansion of slave states.
Also, the Northerners were against the slave trade and slavery in general because they thought it was barbaric and completely unnecessary. They thought that if you wanted to make money, you had to earn it yourself.
Today we are going to be discussing bleeding Kansas from the North and South perspective.
Well, you know, it's not fair to not allow Kansas to have slaves. The fairest way to do this is to allow them to vote whether or not they want to have slaves. The U.S. is a democracy after all, and this should be a state's right. If they really don't want to have slaves, it'll be shown through voting. But if they do, slavery will be allowed.
5,000 pro-slavery Missourians crossed the line into Kansas to vote. This caused the pro-slavery side to win by a landslide. This gave pro-slavery control.
In May of 1856, a court ruled leaders of the anti-slavery movement with treason. 800 men rode to Lawrence in order to arrest these leaders. When they got there, the leaders had already skipped town. So the pro-slavery riders set fires, looted structures, destroyed newspaper presses that supported the anti-slavery government.
Anti-slavery owners got weapons and guns from people of the East, while pro-slavery owners already had guns and ammo. John Brown felt that as revenge for the sack of Lawrence, he must fight with fire. There he killed them with swords. Later, he said it was the will of God that those men died. He and his men were able to escape the capture.
Overall, we can all agree that bleeding Kansas was a horrible incident for both sides. 56 people were killed, and countless properties were destroyed, with assistance of federal troops. Kansas ended up as a free state.
Today we are going to talk about the Dred Scott decision. The Supreme Court ruled that slaves aren't citizens, so they can't sue.
The South is elated about this. This means slavery will be here to stay. Slave owners can take their slaves any direction, as far as they want, and the slaves will still be their property.
The North is concerned that slavery is going to spread because of the new decision.
We're going to be discussing the topic of culture and economics in the North and South.
So most of the jobs in the South are based around agriculture because of their fertile soil and warm climate.
The North's climate supports smaller farms and big industries, making the job of choice being an industry worker.
And what a tariff is, it's a tax on imported goods, and it made it harder for them to pay for goods and subsidized factories in the North.
And the North favored tariffs because it protected their factories and laborers from cheaper European products.
The money raised from the tariffs went to fund coastal defense in the North.
Everyone's now be... Jacob, shut up.
Can't go.
Can you, stop it?
I'm going down the stairs.
Republican Abraham Lincoln has won. There you have it, America. Abraham Lincoln is our new president.
I'm protesting the anti-slave Lincoln.
What do you mean by anti-slave?
If he is elected, he will get rid of slaves and we will lose power.
Breaking news as several states leave the Union of America. We're protecting the border. Why? Well, we seceded from the United States to protect our slaves and others who don't own the slaves, protecting our friends and family.
South Carolina seceded because they believed their economy and way of life would be destroyed.
The North point of view on the election was that they were glad about Abraham Lincoln getting elected because they believed he would keep slavery contained so it would eventually die out. With the Democratic Party in a mess, Republican Abraham Lincoln won the presidential election on November 6, 1860.
This is a story about Dred Scott and a story about traveling to the free part of Illinois with his master and heading back to Wisconsin only to sue for his freedom.
The federal court said that just because he was in a free state doesn't mean he was free. He was still considered property.
Is making a bill of popular sovereignty to either make slavery legal or illegal in Kansas.
Both anti and pro-slavery states settled in Kansas to vote on the leaders.
The Southerners or pro-slavery leaders were very happy with the results.
Anti-slavery citizens will not put up with a pro-slavery government. It appears they are creating their own Kansas government. This means two governments for one state.